Hey everybody, it's John Stewart, Schaefer Middle School. I teach 7th grade science. I'm asked every day in class kind of why is what we are learning important. So right now in 7th grade science, we are talking about food webs and food chains and the transfer of energy from one level to another. So I'm going to take you through why that's important in your life. So I'm going to do it while I'm cooking dinner. So I'm going to throw some real quick. In my pan, I just put a hamburger, okay? A hamburger is made of a cow. So a cow is a consumer. A consumer is something that eats something else for food. So a cow is a consumer. A consumer hunts and eats other things for their own food. The things they eat are producers. A producer is something that makes their own food. So it's like grass. It is like vegetables, fruits, things like that. The sun provides energy to those things. The sun powers our food webs and food chains. A food web and a food chain is how producers and consumers are organized. All right, so I have a hamburger cooking. A hamburger is a consumer. A cow eats grass. A cow needs to eat between 2.5% of their body weight every day. So if a cow weighs about 500 pounds, they're eating about 12 pounds of grass. Now, obviously, a cow is much larger than humans, so they have to eat a lot more than us to be able to function throughout the day. Once a cow eats those producers, the grass, it uses energy to get around. It uses energy to breathe, to walk. So when I eat a cow, I don't get all that energy from the cow that it got from the producers because it's used some of it. So I have to take the cow and add it with other things when I eat it. So I take the ground beef, and on my hamburger, I'm going to have bread, which is grains, which is a producer. So I'm going to get some producers right here. Also, on the hamburger, my hamburgers, I like onions and jalapenos. All right, those are also producers. So I'm getting some energy from producers that go with the hamburger meat that is a consumer. So a food web is how producers and consumers are organized. All right, so here's a example of a food chain. Let's start with that. A food chain starts with the grass. The cow eats the grass. The arrow points to the cow because the cow is doing the eating. And then I'm going to eat part of the cow. I'm the human. So the arrow is pointing to me. All right. Now, if you look at my whole hamburger, I take that food chain and I put it in here. So here's the grass, here's the cow, here's the human. But I'm also eating other producers, which is the onion and the jalapeno and the grains from the bread. All right, so those things are also pointed to me. The cow does not eat those things, at least in this food web, so there's no arrow pointing toward the cow. So here's the food chain I initially showed you, and a food web is an organized thing of a bunch of food chains put together. So a different food chain in here could have been an onion just to the human, or the jalapeno just to the human. All right, so there's 4 different food chains in this one food web. Now, why is that important? All right, so let me flip this real quick. Why is that important? So, everybody that has me in class knows I love to eat. It's my favorite thing to do besides read comics. So, I've actually, during this quarantine time, lockdown, social distancing, I've been walking the dog a ton. I've been trying to lose some weight. So what I do is I keep track of how many calories is in each thing I eat, because calories is energy. The less energy I take into my body and the more I walk around or run around or do work around the house, the more energy I burn. Therefore, I burn more calories, which means there's less weight on me. So if you look at this diagram here, down here, it's just another organizational tool for the food chain I gave you. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. So down here you have your primary producers. Primary means first. So your first producers, which remember, they get their energy from the sun. All right. So the sun helps all these things grow. And the primary producers in this example was the grass, the onion, the jalapenos, and the grain. The primary consumer, which is the first eaters, the first organism that is eating something. Remember, consumers need to get energy from eating other things. Producers do not. They get it. They make their own. Plants make their own energy through photosynthesis. Primary consumers is the cow. Now, the cow eats first. They eat the grass first. So I'm eating the cow, so I'm the secondary consumer. Secondary consumer is the second eater. It's the organism that eats second. If I were to take the cow out of this and the grass out of this, I would move the human down here, and I would now be the primary consumer because I would be eating the onions, jalapenos, and the grains. I'd be the first eater technically. Above me is a tertiary consumer. That is the third eater. So I'm not giving you any examples of my meal of a tertiary consumer, mainly because I'm the secondary consumer. If I give you an example of a tertiary consumer, that means something's coming in my house and they're going to eat me. I don't want that to happen. So I'm not giving you an example of a tertiary consumer. But so for example, say I'm running outside and I'm out in the wild and a mountain lion comes and just is really hungry and it eats me. I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does and I get eaten, now the mountain lion would be the secondary consumer because they're eating me. They would be the tertiary consumer who, because they're eating me, who was the secondary consumer. All right, so remember, way back in the beginning of the year, we talked about no energy could be created or lost. All right, so it's conservation of energy. Energy is the same throughout all time. So you get a bunch of energy from the primary consumers. Now the cow, you can tell they have less energy. That part of the triangle is smaller than the primary producers because the cows move around breathing. It takes energy to do that. I have even less energy that I get from the cow because the cow's used some of this energy. Therefore, the cow has less energy, and therefore I get even less energy from the cow. And the tertiary consumer, which in the example we talked about would be the mountain lion, they would be getting less energy from me because I would use some energy breathing, walking, and running away from my life. All right. So what happens at the top of this thing when that tertiary consumer were to die? So say a mountain lion living out in the wild, it's eating me, who's eating the cow, who's eating the grass, dies. When that mountain lion dies, it decomposes. All right. So other organisms that are called decomposers, they come and they eat at dead living things. They break down dead living things. And when decomposers do that, it puts it into the soil, which plants grow in, which are primary producers. So this energy that is up here is actually back in here because these producers use the dead tertiary consumer to help grow. All right, so energy is not created or lost. It's one big chain. Remember, the sun is the initial thing that creates all that energy, all right, by helping those primary producers grow. And then we eat the primary producers or other organisms do, and then we eat those other organisms. It's a big circle of living and dying organisms and helping other things grow. All right, so now, why is this so important to me? Because I talked about I was trying to lose weight. So I know the more energy I use here, and if I eat less here, then that means I lose weight. All right. So if I use more calories, which is energy and food, I'm going to lose weight because I don't eat as many calories. Now, A lot of you guys I know love sugar. All right, so I do too. Sugar has a large amount of calories in it because sugar is a primary producer, and when you eat that, all right, it's a huge chunk of this. All right, so that is how this relates to your life. Let me check this one more time. That's getting done. It's going to be really good. So what I think you should do, which I think would be really fun, is kind of off the wall here, is I want you to take a recipe, anything that you eat for a day, just keep track of what you eat and keep track of, is it a producer? Is it a consumer? All right. And keep track of how much energy that you need to burn walking your dog, because you can't really go to playgrounds or run around in the gym right now. That how much energy you need to burn to kind of stay the same fitness you are now. All right. So this wasn't as important to me when I was in 7th grade either, but later in life it's became more important to me because I've started paying more attention in the past year or two of kind of what I need to do to help myself. All right. So let me pull this off. So I have cow, which is a primary consumer. Remember, this cow ate the grass outside. All right. And I have bread I'm going to put it on, which is a producer. I have onion, which is a producer. And I have jalapeno, which is a producer because those are all come from plants. All right. So not only am I getting calories from the primary consumer, which is the cow, I'm also getting it from the producers. All right. Thank you. I hope you learned something and have a great day.